what would you say are core principles that you follow when you're developing your business strategies?
That's also a very good question, indeed, because we are so much occupied with trying to simplify our life in agriculture, trying to simplify as well the complex world that we are operating in, because we need to simplify. Otherwise, we can't develop a good strategy on the one side, but also we can't articulate that strategy to our stakeholders, be it a customer, be it a strategic partner, be it also the media over time. So we need to simplify that very complex world.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Wisenetix Podcast. I'm very glad to have here with you guys in another week and with a lot of new content, good content with some of the most important leaders in this industry. So today our guest speaker is Sebastian Marten. Sebastian is the Strategic Business Unit Specialty Executive Director at Adisseo, and he's going to be sharing a lot of cool aspects about, business strategy within the agriculture industry. Welcome, Sebastian.
Thanks a lot, Ricardo. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sebastian, it's interesting for us to start learning, before we jump into the business conversation, we like to learn a little bit more about our guest speakers. So if you could share a short introduction on yourself.
Sure. That's my pleasure, Ricardo. So my name is Sebastian Marten. I'm leading the specialties business unit for Adisseo, working since about 25 years already in the agricultural industry. The last 6 years before I joined Adisseo 18 months ago, I worked for DSM, Animal Nutrition and Health. Before that, 10 years for Syngenta, also in the agricultural space, but more on the crop side of the business. And then I started my career many years ago at the Boston Consulting Group, more from the strategic side. So that's my background. I'm German national, as you might hear, married to a French national, 3 children at home, 3 daughters, living in Switzerland, but working in France, in Paris, at the headquarters of Adisseo, which makes also my life quite interesting.
Yes, I was just talking to Sebastian here, and basically, I don't know, like 2 days ago or yesterday, he was playing tennis in Germany, then he lives in Switzerland, and now he's in Paris, in France. It's I love how easy and it is to travel within Europe.
That's the beauty of Europe, indeed.
It is. It's awesome. I miss it. Last time I went to Europe was 2019, I think, and I'm anxious to go again. And Sebastian, before we actually the transitioning question that we asked to start talking about business is, how would your parents describe what you do?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, Ricardo. Basically, probably as somebody who is passionate about agriculture as one, and second as well, driving animal welfare, sustainability, and higher productivity at the same time. Even though I must admit they probably don't know what I do on the daily basis. They don't know about our technologies, not Adisseo so well, but a passionate person to drive sustainability and productivity. I think that is something that they will probably take up.
Yeah, they get the most important concepts, right?
Probably. So.
And Sebastian, your background is not a technical background in agriculture. Like we see a lot of animal scientists, doing their business in agriculture, but you have more a business background, right? Can you share a little bit more how these, and also your extended experience within the agriculture, 20 plus years already doing business in agriculture, how this has influenced your approach to leadership and also strategy in agriculture?
Yeah, first of all, indeed, I have a business background. So I have a major in marketing, finance, and international management. And I think the impact for my personal career development, but also for what I have done in the last 20, 25 years was that I think I can combine nicely a bit of a strategic perspective on the markets with operational challenges and opportunities. That's one. And second, I think I gained also quite broad and deep understanding of the agricultural value chain. So from producing crops, storing crops, translating or transforming crops into food and feed, and then also offering those end products of farmers to the entire downstream value chain, down to retailers and consumers. So I think I have a quite holistic perspective on that, and perhaps I can share a couple of thoughts in this podcast as well with the audience.
That's perfect. For you to be in a position of leadership, you need to have this 360 view, and this path that you followed help you having this being aware of like what happens in each of those stages. And we're talking about a very complex industry, right? As you mentioned, it starts there with the production, and now the transformation of the crops, the everything that we produce into food to the table of consumers. And for you to navigate in this complex market that is agriculture, what would you say are core principles that you follow when you're developing your business strategies?
That's also a very good question, indeed, because we are so much occupied with trying to simplify our life in agriculture, trying to simplify as well the complex world that we are operating in, because we need to simplify. Otherwise, we can't develop a good strategy on the one side, but also we can't articulate that strategy to our stakeholders, be it a customer, be it a strategic partner, be it also the media over time. So we need to simplify that very complex world. And what we have done in Adisseo, but also what I have developed over time, was a bit of a thinking in three dimensions. On the one side, we talk about different species. We talk about animal species like swine, like poultry, like ruminants, aqua, and pet. These are the 5 species that we are looking at particularly. Then we talk about type of technologies and product categories. We can talk more about this as well later. And then we have our regions as well, where all regions around the world are relevant, have their distinct patterns, how they produce crops, but also how they produce animal feed and how they feed the animals at the same time. But all regions are relevant, and therefore this 3-dimensional matrix, if I can call it that way, of species, product categories, and regions, this is what helps a lot, at least from my perspective, to simplify the complex world that we are operating in.
Just recapping here, we're talking about let's say from the biggest regions, different focus on agriculture, different focus on production, and even consumption. Then you have the different species, and if you extend it to agriculture in general, the different crops as well, but the different and then you have the different technologies and categories. It's a pretty like there's a lot of factors playing their role here. How do you make sure that at the same time that you need to ensure you're delivering the right need for specific customers? You guys talk to producers, you talk to nutritionists, you might connect somehow with influencers like veterinarians. How do you ensure that you meet these specific needs, but at the same time you keep a cohesive global strategy? Everyone is aligned, even though they're delivering different messages and different different services, different solutions.
I think this is one of the most complex and challenging activities that we have in Adisseo, but also I think every other company in the space is doing the same. We tried as much as possible to listen to our customers, what their needs are, and then we translate those needs into a strategy, a corporate strategy. As we said before, what species we want to serve, with what type of products and technologies, and how we then bring back those solutions and products, but also solutions particularly, back into the different regions around the world. And on the one side, we try to standardize as much as possible, to simplify, but also offer economically interesting solutions for our customers. At the same time, feed formulation is different, isn't it, from region to region? It's a different one in Asia versus in Latin America, for example, Brazil, where you are, and also in Europe. And therefore, we need to, at the same time, customize. And what the beauty of our industry is, the animal nutrition and health industry, that you have basically premix, where you can mix different technologies together, different products together into one bag of a solution. And you can also influence directly, obviously, the feed formulation of your customers. If I compare that with what I have done before in Syngenta, where we were in pesticides, so in crop protection products and in seeds, it is very much different, because crop protection is a liquid product which you apply every day, and seeds is a granule, a solid product that you seed basically once in a year or twice in a year. So in that industry, it's significantly more complicated to bring a solution to the market, whereas in our industry with premixes, it's much easier. And that's exactly what we try to do. We try to design the premix according to customer needs, at the same time as well bringing insights from one region to the next, so to ensure that our customers, be it a premix as such or be it also an animal farmer, can benefit as much as possible from our experience around the world. That's what we are.
No, that's very interesting. And you were speaking like even you bring insights from one region to the other, although they're different. There's also like they're very similar at the same time. Same industries, and that's something we see on our podcast as well. Our focus is North America, right? In terms of production, the content we create is targeted to producers in North America. Why? Because we try to be like precise and targeted, right? So we bring experts from that operate and work in the United States. We cover problems that are relevant in the United States. But what we see when it comes to audiences is most of times, although most people listening to our podcast are in North America, we have a listenership around the globe because those insights, even they might be a little bit more driven to North America, they are valuable to customers on the other side of the planet, maybe. So it's interesting to see like how things get connected here.
And this is, I think, also about applied knowledge, isn't it? On the one side, you try to accumulate knowledge over time, but you also learn what's happening around the world. And that's also why we have lots of people from North America, for example, traveling to Latin America, to Europe, to Asia to see what's going on. But you still need to apply this in your reality, isn't it? And my experience is, and our customers will confirm that, nobody will buy a product as such only because it's successful, for example, in Asia.
In a different place.
North America want to try it, which is, I think, absolutely right, but still learning as well what's happening in other places. And in some areas, I think North America has very much progressed. In other areas, there might be another region which has ideas which are relevant. And that is also one of the fascinating areas of our industry, that complexity is driven by the fact that you can use one technology from one place in another one. But you have to try it. You have to prove that it really works. It adds value to our customers. And that takes time. That takes conviction. That takes also the necessity to have the right technical expertise on the ground. And that's also what we can offer, for example, in North America.
Absolutely. My background is in communication and design. So just making a comparison, every time you're going to drive a message, you need to understand like the scenario, like where the environment, right? Where you're to whom you're addressing that specific message. So I see this as a correlation because I don't know, as you said, something worked in North America. In the other place where you want to apply that this solution, how is the weather? How is even the technology, the labor? How are things structured? And sometimes these differences are they're not on top of mind. On like, hey, this will directly influence the performance of the products or the solutions you're applying. So take in consideration the environment where you're applying, basically.
Absolutely correct. Yes.
So one thing that you shared with us, Sebastian, is this thing about Adisseo. Well, Adisseo is huge. You guys are very well known, not only in Europe, but also in North America, South America, and I believe in other sides of the world as well. But you are very well known for nutrition. And you guys are doing this strategic shift towards nutrition and health. Can you share a little bit more why you're doing this and which benefits do you see on applying this new strategy?
Yes. Yeah, first of all, we are already in nutrition health since quite a while, but I think now we are articulating that strategic direction much clearer for ourselves internally first, but then also for our stakeholders in the market. Why is that the case? Because we believe very strongly on the one side, the health market is a very important, it's a big one that we would like to play in as a company, not necessarily or not at all in the curative segment, which is a bit of a different thing, the classical pharmaceutical part of our industry, but more in the preventative part of the business, where we have different technologies proven since decades, like prebiotics, probiotics, all kind of assets that we also can bring into the play for a full solution offering. And we are playing in that area to some extent, but now we are having decided already we would like to combine in the smartest way possible nutrition and health solutions together. You can call that health by nutrition, because obviously on the one side, if an animal eats well, like us as well as human beings, you are feeling better, you are healthier, more resilient overall. But at the same time as well, you can bring through your nutritional expertise and through your feed formulations, you can bring lots of health benefits to the industry. And that's what we would like to do more and more. So we have invested in the last years quite significant into our technical expertise to combine nutrition and health. We have also acquired few companies, rather specific, smaller companies in the space of health who bring us to the next level. For example, we just have acquired last year a French company called Norfeed, which is very much active in plant extracts, grape extracts, basically for boosting animal resilience overall. That's just one example. And we want to continue that more and more, which also, and I think you have indicated this previously, also changes the narrative, the communication that we have in the market, because we talk to nutritionists on the one side, but we also talk more to the veterinarians, to the head of sustainability in our customers, to combine everything into a holistic dialogue that we would like to foster further in the market. So that's indeed a strategic acceleration, if I can say so, what we have done already in the past.
Now it's about focusing on it, like sharing more the story, which you guys have been working already on it.
Yes, and obviously, as Alice has said, demonstrating that we can walk the talk. It's not only about talking about it, but also demonstrate with our technical expertise, with our solution that we bring, that we can have that ability to combine. Yes.
This one must be challenging because I don't know the experience that I have so far in the industry. You see a lot of what's the differences in ways of thinking when you bring nutritionists and veterinarians to the table. So that's something we see very often. So that might be something that's also challenging for you guys in terms of messaging and communication.
Yeah, that might be challenging, but we are not afraid of doing this, because on the one side, listening to the different stakeholder groups on the customer side, I think is quite important, isn't it? So veterinarians might have very different perspectives on challenges than nutritionists, and we want to listen to all of those perspectives, and then afterwards coming with the right solutions, satisfying the needs of the customers. And the customers are consisting of different stakeholders who have different experiences and also sometimes potentially different views. But that's all part of this exciting dialogue that we would like to have in the industry to ensure, that we are responding to those needs. Again, improving productivity and animal health and sustainability from multiple angles. Again, connecting to the complexity that we have talked about.
And at the end of the day, we're talking about serious company doing business on a serious industry, and it's all based in science and trials and research. It's not about guesswork.
Yeah, that's also what we have articulated inside more than outside of Adisseo. In science, we trust. That's what we have as a key principle articulated, and I think that is also one of the bases for the solidity of what we are doing. We have hundreds of scientists around the world who are working daily to prove that what we are developing and bring to the market is solid. And then obviously as well, lots of people around the world in technical marketing then to do the trials with our customers together over time. And we know that we need to take the necessary time, particularly when we are looking into innovations, new product introductions, to have those very regional specific dialogues.
Now going a little bit into, the specific business background and your experiences in the industry. We're right now in people will have their different perspectives on what we're living. But we are, in my opinion, we're living in a moment of a lot of dynamic transformations in all sorts of areas of our lives, from politics to environment, the climate, social changes, all this restructuring. But everything in the world is dynamic. Everything is always changing. There's this thought that there's no stability, although some people like to think about stability that just doesn't exist. But I see this in a more accentuated way lately, right? How do you consider these macroeconomic factors when you're planning the strategies within Adisseo? And if you could share like some practical applications of when relevant macroeconomic factors impacted your strategies?
Yeah, so thanks as well for that question. From my personal perspective, I think the challenges that the world are facing today are not significantly different from 50 years ago, 100 years ago, isn't it? If you think about what crisis the world went through at that time, it's also unique for that time. So I don't think that is extraordinary. But I think the speed definitely has accelerated, to your point. And I think also the transparency of what's happening around the world has significantly accelerated. That is
Media and technology.
media and technology. That is a challenge on the one side. At the same time, I think it's also an opportunity for us as an industry we talked about listening to different stakeholders before, to listening, perhaps even broader, deeper to our stakeholders, because we have connections which are significantly faster to establish than 20, 30 years ago. And that is also, to your question, then an opportunity to translate those market trends and dynamics into action much quicker. Let me give you one example. When I'm traveling around the world, I just have been as well in North America a week ago. We talked about consumer trends in North America, and it's clear not only in the US, but also in the other regions around the world, that consumer habits are changing. For sure, again, they're changing only over time. That takes years and decades sometimes, but they are clearly changing. And if I look into what I see in North America, and I also translate that to my personal life sometimes, we see that if people have more money in their pockets, they consume more aqua products, for example, more shrimps and more salmon, first of all. And that is a clear trend that we see continuing. And we see that as well in other markets, also emerging markets. If consumers become more affluent, aqua has significant growth potential. Second, also poultry, where the drive towards healthy nutrition is favoring, to some extent, poultry, less so pork and ruminants, so swine and ruminants. So that has an impact on our strategic planning, even though we must say two things are still very important. On the one side, those shifts are happening over many, many years. And second, even the pork industry and the ruminant industry remain for the decades to come very important for our markets. But there are slight shifts in consumer behavior. We are monitoring those. And I think you're also contributing with your podcast to talking about these things. And that definitely was not so relevant and so much possible 10, 20 years ago. And we are obviously looking into this on a day-to-day basis.
These consumer trends you're mentioning, now we are talking a little bit about the shift of preferences when it comes to consumptions of meat. But there are other many macroeconomic factors that impact your decision. One of them, a big one that is, I'd say that in Europe is a little bit more established, but we see other regions growing a lot, South America, North America, is the sustainable aspect of things. Consumers are looking every time more to how things are done. Are the companies which I'm buying from, are they sustainable? Do they do they take care of their part? And do they care about the world? At the same point, specifically in animal feed, you have the sustainability, and you also have the performance of the solutions you're sharing. How do you make sure that you can keep a balance between sustainability and performance? How this macroeconomic trend approaches your work in when you're strategizing and developing?
Yeah, I think this is one of the most challenging questions of our industry overall, isn't it? Because on the one side, we want to drive sustainability in animal welfare as quickly and as much as possible. At the same time, we also want to drive productivity, and that is sometimes a challenge to combine all of this together in one solution offering. And when I was in the US last week, I saw indeed there is a difference between, also in public, between US talking more about, I think, about productivity as such. In Europe, probably the whole sustainability agenda is a bit more advanced, a bit more articulated at least. That is very, very clear. And we came to the conclusion as Adisseo that we need to have the ability, as Adisseo as such, but also as an industry, to combine sustainability advantages of solutions with productivity advantages at the same time. And we saw that in the past, if one of the industry players would come with a solution which only offers sustainability advantages, it's not easy to position that technology in the market, because the big question is always on the table: who is paying for it?
Who is paying?
Who is
Yes.
paying for it? And is the consumer at the end ready to pay for it? And even if there are calculations done,
Producers. Yeah.
and producers first, and then the consumer as well, and who is translating that added cost in the system, who is translating this effectively from one part of the value chain to the last one, which is the consumer. And even if calculations are done many times that the extra premium that the consumer has to pay might be only a little bit on the liter of milk, on the kilogram of meat, it's still a challenge for the industry to impose a certain technology or a technology protocol. And that's why we have said strategically, let's try our utmost as much as possible to develop breakthrough innovations which have that improved sustainability pattern and at the same time driving productivity. And we are investing huge amount of energy and efforts in finding exactly those type of breakthroughs.
That's the way to go. No, yeah, it's a big challenge, but it's the way. We want to have a health planet for many years to come, and that's for everyone, for consumers, for producers, and for the supply chain.
That's exactly also, if I can just also add one thing, it's the license to operate, isn't it? That's what we call it in our industry: license to operate, to have the mandate to produce animal protein in a healthy and affordable way. And if you don't invest enough resources into this, I think we are partly gradually losing that license to operate. And that's what should not happen by all means. That's right.
At some point, the bill will come, and so let's work to avoid that. And Sebastian, now looking back at your whole experience in agriculture and business, what are some of the key business lessons that you've learned throughout your career in agriculture?
Yeah, first of all, we just talked about innovation. Innovation takes time. And sometimes it takes more time than we all think. And one part of the innovation cycle is developing a technology. And the second part is making it used, is making it really big and relevant in our markets. And that takes sometimes decades. And we need to have the passion and the patience at the same time to go through that innovation cycle and not give up only after 1 or 2 years. If you see that in research and development something doesn't work, or in the market something doesn't work, in our industry things take time. And the players, we all, if we are persistent and we are believing in something, let's stick to it because it makes sense for the long term. That's learning number one. Learning number two is, big learning for me, you can't do everything on your own. We talked about the complexity of our markets. Adisseo is a big company, but at the same time, not a huge company who can cover all species, all regions, all categories completely alone. We want to partner, and we have to partner. And open innovation, I think, is absolutely critical. So we are very eager to engage with all players in the industry who are interested in this, to share ideas, to come also to strategic alliances, and through that, to better solutions for the industry. We have that in place to some extent, be it in R&D or be it in production, but also in sales and marketing activities. But we would like to accelerate this, because if we want to transform the animal nutrition and health system over time, we talked about sustainability before, we have to partner in the industry, and we are more than open to do that.
Those are good lessons. Innovation takes time. By the way, I love the patience and passion. That's a really good one to remember, especially if you're working with innovation. And then, we cannot do everything alone. Be ready to partner and grow with others.
Yeah, we talked about life before, and isn't it, Ricardo, as well? And that's perhaps also a lesson for the private life. Patience and passion is always a good combination also in the private life, and you can't do everything alone. And we can talk about teamwork in private and in professional life. That's the same there as well, isn't it? You need to trust strong partners around you to be successful, and that, I think, is a nice picture for the professional and for the personal.
Those are good concepts, good fundamental concepts. Sebastian, my last question here on our business talk is about thought leadership or brand authority. So we are in an industry, as we've been discussing this, we're talking to not only producers, but also some people with more technical focus, scientists, people who are involved in research. We're talking with veterinarians, we're talking with nutritionists. How important is it for you, for a brand, to establish its authority, its technical authority? And how do you ensure or incorporate this thought leadership approach in Adisseo's strategies?
This is very important. It's about brand authority as a company like Adisseo, but also it's about brand authority for a certain product or technology. Why this is so important? We talked about the complexity of our markets, and we have at the end hundreds of different choices and options for animal farmers, isn't it, to go for feed formulation. But at the same time, animal farmers can only choose, probably realistically, like us as well in our private life, between 3 to 4 brands for the challenges that we are looking for solutions for. And therefore, we would like to be part of those 3 to 4 brands. And we only can achieve that through being close to our animal farmers, explaining what we are doing with our technical and commercial experts, but also at the same time ensuring that the industry trusts us. We talked about before, in science we trust, and Adisseo is a science-driven company, will always be. But we are investing in this brand authority, in this thought leadership, because we want to help our animal farmers in the orientation in that complex market. So my dream is basically, if an animal farmer thinks about a certain challenge, be it productivity, be it welfare, be it sustainability, they pick up the phone and call us as Adisseo to help. Not because we have necessarily all the answers at the same time. We also touch partnerships. We might also bring partners to the table who then have the right answers, but calling us as a reference point for the industry. And that is what we are spending so much energy for.
That's perfect. Sebastian, we're getting to the end of our conversation here. I have just 2 more questions, and they are not exactly about business. Well, they can be as well. The first one is, do you have any recommendations for our listeners, from books to movies, podcasts, documentaries, anything you find interesting and enriching?
Yeah, that is a good one as well. I'm always also listening to people who recommend certain books or films to me. So I have something perhaps a bit old style to recommend, but things that I'm always going back to. Even last week, I was reading again a little bit chapters of 2 books that I really like. One is The First 90 Days. You might know that, by Michael Watkins, that book, which I used 20 years ago when I took a new job in a new company. But even if I take a new assignment, or if I want to refresh myself, I take that book out, because it's always good to go back to what is needed in your first 90 days, even of the challenge that you have, to get your clarity of thoughts, your stakeholders managed, but also to keep your balance between professional and personal life. So the first 90 days is one which I would recommend always going back to. And the second one that I also enjoy continuously is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You also might know that book of Mr. Covey, which I think is very much known in North America particularly. And I also like it because you can open it whenever you want for a few minutes and just read a page. And at least I always get something out of this. So those 2 books, I think, are always on my shelf somewhere, and I don't want to lose the great insights from those.
Those are good references, and my last question, Sebastian, is, where can our listeners find you online in case they want to connect?
Yeah, Ricardo, I need to admit here now at the end of our session that I'm not so active in podcasts or in social media yet, but that might change. Perhaps this podcast today is the starting point of many more to come. And if the audience is interested in getting into a dialogue, into a conversation, more than happy to do so. If a podcast helps, or some other social media channels, please let me know. But I'm on the learning journey, if I can say so, as you all probably are.
Perfect. I believe our audience can find you on LinkedIn if they want, by your name, Sebastian Marten.
Sure.
Okay, perfect. And of course, if you guys need anything, you can always jump into Adisseo's website.
Yeah.
But at Adisseo's website and check, what's new and everything. And I'm sure you can find some place to connect with your team there. For our listeners, thank you for staying with us, listening to content, and enjoying some insights with Sebastian here. And I hope to see you all in our next episode. And Sebastian, thank you so much for sharing these great insights and for this great conversation.
Sure. Thanks again for having me, and also to the audience, thanks for listening in, and see you soon somewhere around the world in the industry.
See you soon.